Welcome to another episode of Me, My Wife, and Sports. I'm your host, Fitz, with my lovely co-host, Darcy.
Hello.
Well, I tell you, we were watching the Masters yesterday. Well, actually, this past week we watched all the Masters.
4 days.
And it was just, I tell you, I haven't felt this excited about a sporting event since March Madness Championship.
Yeah.
And
it was a good
It was. And for McElroy to go into a sudden death what do they call it? Overtime or shootout, or what do they call it?
They used to call it sudden death. They didn't call it that this time.
Okay.
I forgot what they called it. I guess they called it a playoff. Yeah. But they used to call it sudden death. They didn't call it that.
It was crazy.
But it was good, whatever they called it.
He could have won it without going into it if he had just sunk the putt.
Yeah.
I mean, and
his nerves got to him.
It wasn't that big of a putt, but you called it.
Oh, man.
You called it. You said he can't make any putts during the whole thing. You said he can't putt the ball. He is driving and all that was great, but his putting sucked.
Yeah, but he did it. He pulled it out.
He did, and he won me a few bucks. But
yeah.
But
Shambo let me down, but.
Well, before we move on, I want to clarify some things that I said I'll follow up from our previous episode, where we were talking about the NFL draft and players going into the NFL draft. And you had mentioned, can they go out of high school and so forth like that? And no, they can't go directly out of high school. They have to at least be 3 years removed from high school or have 3 years in college, and then they can apply for the draft. And then it's like a special request. Then it has to be approved. So, and I think that's a good thing, to make sure that they are ready physically.
Okay.
And also we talked about Catherine Switzer, who ran the Boston Marathon. I just want to clarify, and I put her interview on our Facebook page. I want to clarify that this took place in 1967.
Okay.
Yeah. And we also talked about Terrell Pryor. He did go to the NFL after his junior year. Again, special draft and so forth.
Okay.
But also, we both watched a documentary that was produced by Shaq and Stephen Curry.
Steph.
And it's called, what was it called again? Something Queen.
The Queen of Basketball.
I don't know. I just had a
Queen.
Yeah, I just had
The Queen of Basketball.
And it was great. And it showcases Lucia Harris. And she was the only woman to ever be drafted by an NBA team. But I'm not going to give you the spoilers on it. So check our Facebook page out, and you should be able to view it there. And
it's
also
on YouTube.
Yes.
It's on YouTube, but the link is on our Facebook page. Correct. And if not on the first top of the page, just you can search on our page, The Queen of Basketball, or just go to YouTube and search The Queen of Basketball. But it's very short history lesson.
Yes, and it's a very short.
Yeah, it's about 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Which really it should be an hour.
Yeah. So I highly suggest everyone check it out. One thing that they
Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and all the WNBA women, you all need to watch it too.
I say everybody, male and female. It's a really heartbreaking and compelling story on how things transpired from when she played.
History lesson.
It is. And I'll be honest, I never knew anything about it until I came across it. And it is excellent. And one thing it doesn't state, which I will let everyone know, that I think it won either Emmy or Oscar. It won a major award. And unfortunately, she passed before, I think 2 months prior to them receiving that.
The award. She saw the film produced.
Yes.
There are so many things, so much history in that 20-minute documentary.
Right.
That, it's just...
It's very impactful.
It's very impactful.
And it has something for everyone to take away from it.
If you play basketball, regardless to whether what your sex is, male, female, transgender, since we had that on there too. If you're in basketball and if you haven't watched this, you should watch this, because she broke a lot of barriers in both men and women's sports.
Right.
So that's just a little, I don't know what to say. Teaser. Yeah, that's a teaser there.
Right.
She broke some
barriers
there. So,
and the fact that she was first, and she was from Mississippi, which you know as well as I do, the African American community back in the 50s, 60s, and so forth wasn't treated completely fair,
but they embraced her.
Right, they did, and it's a good, heartwarming story and cross all barriers of race, color, and creed. So.
And we put that clip on the on our Facebook page, and that story on our Facebook page has gotten more hits than anything we've ever put on our Facebook page.
Right.
So please sit down with your kids. If you're an athlete and you play basketball, or even if you don't play basketball, if you're an athlete, you need to watch that because it's very impactful. And then we'll give you guys some time to get out there and watch it. And then we're going to tell you everything about it. So if you didn't have time to watch it, then you'll hear about it in one of our next episodes because I really like to talk about it.
Yeah, we want to devote a whole episode.
To it because
the whole thing, because it's just
she
remarkable.
Is definitely worthy of a whole episode by herself. So we'll give you guys time to watch it and then we'll talk about it.
Definitely.
So definitely do that.
Also,
and then like our Facebook page.
Please do.
And follow us because there's a lot of things on our Facebook page.
Right. Also, to follow up on another topic that we were talking about, whether a woman has ever played in the NBA. And I couldn't think of the one woman name, which was Ann Myers. She actually was the first woman to sign a contract with the NBA in 1979 with the Pacers for $50,000. But again, her season only lasted 1 year. And also you had brought up women dunking basketball.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I did some research and found it was a list, not a whole lot, maybe about 10, I think it was. That's a lot. More. Well, yeah. And at the top of the list was, it had a breakdown of how many times they'd done it. And Brittany Griner has dunked, based on the list that I saw, like 18 times in a game. But the first person, do you know who the first person was? It was Cheryl Miller.
Oh,
yeah.
Cheryl Miller.
Yep.
One of my favorites.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
And it was another young lady. She was about 6'7" or so. She went to West Virginia. And it's funny because I met this young lady when I was playing college basketball. And I actually saw her in person during a game. And she was the first female I actually had to look up to. Because, everybody's always looking up to me because I'm 6'4". But with her, I was like, wow. So kudos.
Who was she?
You would ask.
Well, you said that.
Yeah.
You said all that and you don't remember her name.
I tell you what, I'm going to dig it back
Something
up.
else you got to look up?
No, I had it in my notes. And I'm just going to pull it out of my notes.
Okay.
And I will let you know before the show's over.
Okay.
But moving on to our show, we want to discuss basically, is winning everything in sports?
Is winning everything in sports?
Because, it's a lot of emphasis placed on parents and on yourself to be the best you can in the sport. Or you might feel that being an underprivileged child, coming from a community and knowing that the only way you can get to college is off of athletic scholarship. So you put a lot of pressure on yourself to be the best and do what you can to do that, to get that. So we just want to discuss a little bit about is winning everything and how does it truly affect not only the child, but parents, friends, and other folks that are involved in it.
So what are your thoughts? Well,
personally, I don't think winning is everything. I think that we, in our society today, we put a lot of emphasis on winning.
Yeah, too much emphasis on winning.
But losing has its merits. I think it makes us a little bit stronger in certain cases, and we learn from our mistakes to make ourselves better.
Right.
If you're not looking to strive to be better, then I think you lose that edge.
Right.
When it comes to competing in sports.
Right. I think it has to vary at different levels.
Right.
And so for youth, I think it's it's important that the kids learn both sides of winning and losing.
Definitely.
You
Now,
know,
well, with that said, I'm not a big fan of every kid gets a trophy.
Everybody gets a trophy,
whether you win or lose.
Right.
That's sending a mixed message. I'm sorry.
So that's where people start to have a difference of opinion.
Right.
And so that's really where the discussion begins. And so, so should everybody get a trophy? And some kids feel bad, but then you got to have those. Everybody shouldn't get a trophy. When we were growing up, everybody didn't get a trophy. Like even in school, like for school awards, some kids got awards for good grades, for perfect attendance, for different things. And some kids just sat in the audience and clapped their hands and they didn't get awards. And if you didn't excel in something, then you didn't get anything. And they didn't make up awards so that everybody got something. And that was your motivation.
Exactly.
And so then we come into this era where, they're giving awards for everything. You don't motivate the kids to strive to be better. And that's where the discussion begins. But then as the kids get older, the conversation has to change. And then you get into the pros and now it's different. And you get into higher levels.
Right.
And if the emphasis is too much on winning, then the discussion becomes...
Well, in the pros, it's definitely more emphasis, whether it's football, basketball, or any sport, on winning, because the people who are writing the checks to these players, they make money when they win. Yeah,
but then the motivation is so much on winning that it drives people to do things that may not be always legal.
Right. Well, and two,
then you get back into the days of where, the locker room discussions are, we putting hits out, or we got
bounties.
We got bounties.
New Orleans Saints.
We got
Sean Payton.
We got incentives for a certain thing. I wasn't calling no names, but we got incentives for things that we shouldn't have incentives for.
Right.
Even sometimes, in horse racing, they doing things to the animals and mistreating animals and things like that. Doping and things like that, then that's not right.
And, and I think too that, especially at the pro level, and I'm going to use basketball as an example, that there's a lot of individualism because you're looking at, okay, this is my living. What can I do to make the all-star team? What can I do to get the defensive player award? All those things, because I'm sure in their contract, they have incentives as they get these little perks. So to me, personally, not across the board, but I think it takes away from the team play. It becomes more individualism.
Right.
And also, if there's a lot of emphasis on all of that, you lose the enjoyment of the game. And the reason I say that, because when I was in college and played ball, I did have opportunity to go overseas. A friend of mine who was playing overseas reached out to me and said, hey, and he was a former player that I played with in college, and asked that I want to come over and play. But I had lost the love for the game, and I was just ready to move on with my life. And I never went into college basketball thinking I was going to the pros anyway. I just enjoyed playing.
Right.
And I knew it was an ends to a means, like getting my education and so forth. And it was a great experience. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Right.
And also, we got to understand, too, when you look at winning and losing, you can't take away the sportsmanship piece of the whole thing.
Right.
Because who was it? We were watching the Women's March Madness, and I can't think of the young lady. I think it was from LSU. What's her name? The key player for LSU. She does this commercial.
Flage.
Whatever that. But
that's it, Flage.
She was ranting and raving on the sideline because I think she had
one of the raps and got the contract.
She had something in her eye, or she had an eye, and they took her out, and she was just stomping around on the sidelines. To me, being a brat, looking like she wants to get back in the game, but the coach wasn't putting her in the game.
Right.
That's just terrible, I think. Bad sportsmanship. Because little girls and guys who follow these WNBA players, college
They're
players,
seeing all that.
they're looking at this and think it's okay to act that way.
Yeah, it starts young.
Right.
It starts young. And if parents are just pushing these kids to be the best and not teaching them the whole team concept,
Right.
then that's what you get.
Exactly.
And it becomes winning at all costs, at any cost.
And when you get that must-win mindset, then you have individuals who sometimes create a negative environment. Look at some of these NBA players who's been bounced around from team to team to team, you know?
But that's why coaches like Dion are so, they're 1 in a million.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why what he's saying is so important. Like, he's not just making a football play.
Right. He's making them well-rounded.
He's creating a man.
Right.
He's teaching them how to be young men.
Right.
On and off the field.
Right.
He don't care if you go to the NFL. I want you to be a well-rounded man on and off the field. So that, because 1% make it to the NFL.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about winning on the field. It's about also winning off the field. That's why they all got 3.5 grade point averages.
Right.
Ain't nobody talking about that.
Exactly.
And they all excelling in their classes as well. You don't hear a lot of other coaches talking about their team's GPAs.
Right.
I like to know about some of the other teams' GPAs.
Right.
And what are they studying? And what are their plans if they don't make it to the NBA?
Well, it's funny you mentioned
or the NFL.
Because Coach K, when he was coaching, he always had some scholastic athletes on his team. And I think he really helped to shape a lot of those guys who went on to coach. And some stayed to be assistant coaches with them and then got their own team.
Right.
And you're just not going to get that far in life doing those things if a coach is recruiting you, saying, okay, play ball for me. Okay, see you. Thanks for your 4 years, 3 years, or whatever the case may be. So.
Right. I would like to know the same makeup of Dawn's team.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't come out and said that about, her team and the LSU team, the UConn team, the women team who just won was the UConn.
UConn, yes.
How are they doing academically?
Well, that's one thing I want to say, and this is just my personal opinion. I have nothing to validate this or anything, but I think in college, the females in their sports do better academically most of the time, majority of them, than the males.
Yeah, because they got to have a second job.
Because they don't have,
the NBA don't pay that well.
They don't have the outlets like the men have going to the NBA.
Exactly.
And the women are just now getting the endorsement pieces. And
the NIL and all that stuff. Right.
I even read an article that the next Olympics, the article said that the women outranked the men going into this Olympic coming up. I think it's like there's going to be 47 point some percent going to be women or somewhere around that number, and only 46% going to be men in the Olympics. So women's sports have come a long way. And the media, advertisement, they're seeing the value. They're seeing the value in that. And they are starting to make moves with your Caitlin, your Angel Reese, and other females like Simone Biles and folks like that who are making a difference in female sports.
Right.
Because when I used to watch female college basketball, I say, man, they really play like girls. Now when I watch it, it's like, man, she shoot that. Her form is like a dude's form.
Right.
And now I don't.
Like you always say, her handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even label it anymore. I just say that this person, whether it's a female or male, has a great game. Before, in the past, I used to label it, she plays like a girl, he plays like a girl, And it's a lot of females out there that can beat
they holding their own.
Yeah.
They holding their own.
Can beat some guys in various sports. So.
Right.
Yeah. But,
I think if I was asked the question that we labeled this episode, I would say, I don't think winning is the most important at certain levels.
Right. I totally agree with that.
If you ask me, is winning the most important? For the Cowboys, I would say yes.
That's long overdue.
That's it. Now we're talking about a different. Now it's personal and it's a whole different question. But if you ask me, is winning the most important for, one of my grandkids or my godson or someone like that, then I got a whole different answer. So, it's situational and you have to put it in perspective.
Right.
And so, yes, it's going to be different for different situations.
Well, it's a good quote that Tiger Woods had.
Yes.
And I always think about it is, which Tiger said, winning is not always the barometer of getting better.
Right.
And I totally agree with that because, as we mentioned earlier, losing has its aspects where you see what you did wrong, you can improve, because you always got to strive to do better and have that goal to reach and continue to establish new goals, because it's just like in life. Once you stop wanting to achieve something, whether it's learning how to drive or whatever, then you lose sense of purpose in life.
Right. And losing is going to happen. You're not going to always win.
Right.
And so it's important.
That's life.
It's important to learn how to lose gracefully.
Exactly.
You can't be a bad loser. That's a part of sportsmanship.
Right.
And so
it's funny you mention that, because our son, when he was growing up, he didn't like to lose. I mean, I remember going to one of his games and he fouled out and he's stomping on the side. I had to actually go over there and pull him to the side and tell him, and I think he was about 10 or 11. And I was like, you go over there and apologize to your team for acting the way you're acting. Because if you had won, you've been over the moon. So, and the fact that you fouled out, didn't like the call the ref called and all that, that's part of the game. Which he, of course, went and apologized. But, it's a life lesson. And he never did it again playing sports. So,
and it makes you a better leader.
Right.
And everything. So it's just a part of life. Like you said, it's a part of life. And so if they learn how to do that young, it'll pay off when they get older and when they're in different positions and different roles in life. So
no doubt about that. And
but I think that concept of winning being the most important started with Vince Lombardi. When he said, winning isn't everything, it's the only thing.
Right.
And that famous quote stuck.
Right.
And
because winning only could take you so far.
It can only take you so far.
Because if you get sucked into it and feel you got to win at everything, and when you do lose, where does that send you? Does it spiral you into depression, drugs, or immoral things? Who knows? But you got to be willing to take the good with the bad and, learn from your losses. I can't overemphasize that.
Right.
All right. Oh, also, the name of that young lady who was from West Virginia, her name was Georgine Wales. She played at West Virginia from 1982 to 1986. And she was the first college player to dunk in a game.
Oh, okay.
Yep. But again, she was tall as heck, so. But, the shortest person that I saw on the list was a young lady that was like 6 feet tall. And I want to say her name was Michelle Snow. And she played for Illinois. No, she played for Tennessee. They were playing against Illinois on November 25th in 2000.
You never saw Tom Brady act out. He always had.
I disagree.
Really?
I disagree. And I like Tom Brady. Don't get me wrong. I like him. But sometimes if you look back at some of his old footage when he played with the Patriots, he'll throw a ball and a receiver and miss it, or not in the exact spot he was throwing the ball. He would be yelling down the field at him.
But I mean, like at losing a game.
Well, he didn't lose that much, so.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of people who were bad losers.
Yeah.
In sports.
I can't think of any offhand because I try not to focus on those individuals. And I just watch the game and look at those who come off positive.
Terrell Owens was a bad loser.
Oh, was he?
Terrell Owens?
I know who he is, but
yeah.
I didn't know if he was a bad loser.
He was just horrible. Yeah, he was.
Why do you say that? Did you see him in a game or something?
Well, he was just...
Did he talk crap on his teammates after the game and saying it was their fault? Never took responsibility?
I don't know. Maybe I just
can't. Maybe I just can't get a man saying he's bad loser.
Maybe I just didn't like Terrell.
I like Terrell, but yeah, you got to have some
something to back it up.
Yeah, like you always tell me.
Okay, not my own personal.
Right, your own personal vendetta. But also back on the dunking thing, I just want to give you a good breakdown so you can see that I did do my homework. Brittany Griner.
Oh, you're talking about Brittany. You back on that.
When she played college ball for Baylor, she had 18 dunks, and she was 6'8". And Candace Parker, who played for Tennessee, has 7 dunks, and she was 6'4", or she is 6'4", I should say. And, of course, I mentioned Michelle Snow, who had 3 dunks, and she is 6'5". And I'll just stop it right there. But all the ones who've dunked are at least 6 feet and above. And I had on the list I was able to find, I had like 9 players, female players. So, which is still not a whole lot, because I don't know if you noticed in this last March Madness, these young ladies are tall. They had a lot of tall young ladies. Yeah. Now, whether they had the jump and dunk is a whole different story. Yeah, because I think the last person probably was Fran Belibi from Stanford. She's 6'1" and had 3 dunks, and she played from 2019 to 2023. All right, looking at the clock, our time is coming to an end. And before we go, I just want to say that I have a little known sports fact to share with everyone, as always. Do you know what it is?
Nope. I never know what it is.
Okay.
It's a little known sports fact for me too, y'all. So we'll all be
I try not to tell her just to see if she is surprised
we'll
or
all be surprised together.
This one is dealing with soccer. So
I know I don't know this. I do watch soccer though.
Okay, so
I watch all the sports, unlike.
Well, this isn't soccer. I was just messing with you. This isn't soccer.
All right, what is it then?
Major League Baseball. Do you watch that?
I watch it. I watch it during the playoffs.
Okay, on an average,
if what? If the Bears are not the Bears.
Yeah, she don't watch
Cubs.
baseball.
The Cubs.
What? A cub is a small bear.
Yeah, see, I knew it was a bear. It's a cub. Okay, the little bear. Chicago. My point was if Chicago is in it. That's
just say no to alcohol.
Okay.
All right. In an average Major League Baseball game, there are a total of how many minutes of action?
Oh, I don't even know.
18.
No.
Yeah.
As long as it takes for a baseball game, it's only 18 minutes of action.
Average. This is an average. But you got to remember what action.
What is action? Define action.
Yes. Like if you strike somebody out, that's not really action, but like.
You mean the men running around the bases?
Running to catch the ball, the bases, throwing people out.
Oh my God.
That's action.
That's crazy.
The guy sitting out in the center field just waiting for a ball to fly out there, that ain't action.
That's why most people that go to a baseball game, they go to the stadiums to have the good food because they only going to eat.
And socialize.
They spend more time eating and socializing. That's what I did when I went to baseball games.
That's almost any sport in of it.
You go for the food.
Yeah, if you can afford it now.
You're right. That's true. That's true.
All right. Just like always, we appreciate all our listeners. And if you want to drop us a message, you can do that at memywifeandsports@yahoo.com. If you just want to say, hey, how you doing? Or say your show sucks or whatever.
Or give us a topic that you want to hear about.
Exactly. And you can also go to memywifeandsports.buzzsprout.com. And also our YouTube page, Me, My Wife, and Sports. We post on there, I believe, our episodes as
the
well.
episodes are uploaded there, so you can
Yes, and
listen there.
we'll eventually start linking a lot of the stories that we recommend that you folks go look at, whether it's a documentary or just some statistics on certain people and things of that nature. All right, with that said, Darcy, you have any parting words?
No, just be sure to check out the Queen of Basketball on YouTube. And as always in parting, remember, your mate is a reflection of you.